did you know that tonight, while you're asleep, a war is being fought over the electricity that powers your life? Yeah, but the combatants, they aren't human. They're algorithms. And let me tell you, they are winning. You know, someone on the inside of our energy markets put it exactly like this. And this isn't some clever metaphor. This is the literal rule book for a game that's being played every single night. And the stakes? Well, the stakes are your money.
Okay, so picture this. It's the dead of night. The wind is just howling across the plains, right? It's spinning 1,000 turbines way faster than anyone saw coming. And all of a sudden, raw, unexpected power floods the grid.
And at that exact moment, in some server farm hundreds of miles away, something stirs. It's an algorithm, and it's been trained on terabytes of data. It knew this was going to happen. It predicted this exact weather anomaly, this precise surge of wind, and in the blink of an eye, it strikes.
And get this, before the sun even comes up, that single piece of code can pull up to $400,000 right out of the system. And that's not monopoly money. It has to come from somewhere, right? Well, it comes from us. So how in the world did we get here? To really get it, we've got to rewind the clock. We have to look back at, well, the original sin of the energy market, Enron. Now, the playbook itself might look different today, but the lesson the industry learned? Oh, it wasn't about ethics. It was simple. Don't get caught. You see, the old school Enron traders, they used pretty blunt instruments. I mean, we're talking about manufacturing thick shortages out of thin air, scheduling phantom power flows, all to rig the prices. They had these super brazen strategies with names like, I'm not kidding, Death Star. They weren't just bending the rules, they were shattering them. But here's the thing. The first Enron, it was clumsy. It left a paper trail a mile-long human fingerprints all over the crime scene. Enron 2.0 is a totally different beast. This game is played by AI traders moving at the speed of light, exploiting these invisible patterns in the data. They don't leave fingerprints, no. They leave digital ghosts in the machine.
Okay, so how does this digital heist actually pull it off? Here's the crazy part. It's not about breaking the system. It's about exploiting a vulnerability that's been built right into its very core.
It all comes down to something called the two-settlement system. Sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. Basically, electricity gets priced twice. First, there's a price set the day before based on a forecast. Then there's a second price set in real time as we're all actually flicking on our lights. And that gap, that tiny difference between the prediction and reality, that's the hunting ground.
Let me walk you through how this unfolds. Say at 10 p.m., the forecast sets the price for tomorrow's power. Everything looks normal. But then, boom. 2:47 a.m. hits, and a weather front nobody saw coming causes a massive surge in wind power. The market is flooded with cheap electricity, and the real-time price just tanks. That chaos, that volatility, that is the opportunity. So the algorithm strategy is basically a perfect three-step heist. Step 1, analyze. It uses machine learning to get way better at predicting these little forecast mistakes than the official grid operators are. Step 2, sell. It sells a bunch of power it doesn't even own in that high-priced day-ahead market. Then, step 3, buy. It just sits back, waits for the price to crash, and then buys that exact same power back for pennies on the dollar in the real-time market.
And that's it. That's the whole game. Sell high, buy low. The profit is the spread, the gap in between. It's textbook arbitrage, but it's supercharged by a massive, almost unfair technological advantage.
So you're probably asking, who's behind all this? Well, it's not your local utility company, I can tell you that. The players here are these super secretive financial firms. And think about it, they don't own a single power plant or transmission line. They produce literally nothing. The only thing they own is information. And the tools they use? It's like something out of a spy movie. They have an entire arsenal. Virtual bidding lets them trade power they don't even have. They use co-located servers, which means they literally plant their computers right inside the grid operator's data centers just to get a few milliseconds of a speed advantage. And of course, they're using cutting-edge AI to outthink and outplay the market at every single turn.
And this is where it gets really disturbing. This whole thing is almost the perfect crime. Why? Because the manipulation isn't technically breaking the rules. No, it's exploiting the rules so perfectly that the fraud itself becomes part of the system's architecture. It's baked right in.
I mean, the mismatch here is just staggering. On one side, you've got the regulators, FERC, with maybe 1,500 employees. They're basically playing checkers. And on the other side, you've got entire departments full of PhDs in physics and math at these trading firms.
They're not playing checkers. They're playing 17-dimensional chess.
Someone on the inside, a whistleblower, absolutely nailed it. They said the problem is every single individual trade looks perfectly legal, totally defensible. It's only when you zoom way out and see the pattern of thousands upon thousands of trades that you can see the manipulation. But here's the kicker. There's nobody whose job it is to look at that whole picture.
And here's the twist, the really brutal irony in all of this. Our push for green energy, which is absolutely vital, by the way, is actually making this whole problem worse. How? Well, things like wind and solar, they're just more variable. They're harder to predict. And all that unpredictability creates even more volatility, which means more gaps and a richer hunting ground for these algorithms.
So, what does this all mean for you and me? Let's bring it home. This isn't just some abstract financial game happening in the cloud. No, this is a hidden tax. A tax on every single one of us. And it's not being collected by the government. It's being collected by an algorithm. Just to put this in perspective, in 2023, American households spent a whopping $150 billion on electricity. A chunk of that money didn't go to making power or keeping the lights on. Nope, it went straight into the digital pockets of these financial firms. Next time you look at your electric bill, you'll see all the usual stuff, right? Charges for generation, transmission, all that. But there's a slice of that pie you'll never see. It's this hidden algorithmic surcharge. It's nothing less than a pure transfer of wealth from your bank account directly to their servers.
And all of this leaves us with a really fundamental question. This system, it wasn't designed to work this way. It just kind of evolved into this. So who's actually in control here? Who is writing the rules for the code that, for all intents and purposes, runs our power grid?
The answer, at least for now, is pretty unsettling. Because while the regulators are asleep and the politicians are debating, somewhere out there, right at this very moment, the code is awake.